No?
It looks like we have a staff.
You got a better way to put that?
No, ma'am.
Put me
Just
where I'm
have a
trying to go?
Question of clarification.
Okay, Gary?
So essentially what you're saying is the steering committee, which is staffed by city staff,
Right.
would do the work of identifying the priority areas.
Right.
Once those are identified,
Right.
then bring those back to council with the steering committee's recommendations. Council would say, yes, we want to proceed with these. Then the $35,000 would be available for Bill to seek professional assistance in engineering, designing, doing that sort of thing.
That's what I had in mind.
So you don't want to have an RFP issued. You want staff to work with the steering committee up front
Yeah.
and bring those recommendations.
Yep.
And if I
Sure, go ahead. Why not?
May
Why
not.
not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a motion with no second.
That's correct. That's
I'll
right.
second it. Okay.
All right. We have Sue's motion, we have Wayne's second. Bill?
And if I may, there may be junctures of the work of the subcommittee that would benefit from the assistance, input, suggestions of a consultant. And so I didn't want to preclude the use of that resource through the development process, that we would focus the bulk of the use of the funds for actual design effort. I mean, the council appropriated this money for this project, that we would utilize the bulk of the funding, preserve the corpus of the funding to fund actual design work, but there may be junctures and points during the review process of the subcommittee where having somebody with that type of expertise might be beneficial to the group in providing visualizations before identifying actual areas or doing very general concept development. If that's not how the council wishes to proceed, we will do the best we can with however the council would wish to proceed with the project.
If I may.
Thank you. Yes, Gary?
Is it possible, Bill, if there was an amount of that 35 that was available, a not to exceed? What I'm hearing you saying is that there may be a point where you'd want to bring a design professional in to take a look at the work, or if the subcommittee has questions or steering committee has questions, you could get that assistance to help flesh it out to bring it to council, correct?
To help inform the work of the steering committee through the course of the
Understand.
project, correct, yeah.
Which is not what the motion is on the floor. Walter?
Thank you, ma'am. There's a way to do this, Sue,
Okay.
if you're interested in Bill's
Sure.
last statement. It could be done as an RFQ that has two phases to it. The first phase is the work with the steering committee. As Gary has stated, you could, define in dollar terms what's available to staff to pay for that, and that the second phase would be to do the design and other work, and that second phase would only be upon implementation by the city. In other words, you would not automatically be buying all $35,000 worth of budget up front.
We
If I
have
may
done-
again, that's the same model that we utilize for the Southeast Moscow Industrial Park, I believe.
Actually, for the Intermodal Transit Center.
Yes, exactly.
We
I'm
did the
sorry.
preliminary concept design before we actually had construction funding, so we had a Phase 1 and Phase 2 in that project. There were different scopes identified and different budgets identified for those tasks. So we could certainly approach it if you wanted to say $10,000 for plan development and $25,000 for actual targeted improvement design efforts. That gives us some general, I think, guidance on how you'd like to have that structured, and that the council would like to have approval of the identified potential priority projects prior to proceeding into design. And so we certainly could work with something in that structure.
And you RFP once, you get your person that you want to go all the way through it. You just don't turn him loose all the way through it until you're ready to.
Well, in that case, rather than do amendments, I withdraw my motion, and then we could discuss how to structure that. Is that all right with
You
you?
make the motion to begin with.
That needs to be done by consensus of the council.
Okay.
I'm asking-
Sue-
well, I'm
Sue
asking
is
the
choosing to-
seconder.
I'll
you're-
go along with withdrawal
you're
of motion.
withdrawing
Let
your
Walter
motion.
make the motion so we can move on.
That's right.
It's acceptable to you and consensus by the group. We had a motion and a second on the floor. Are you all right to go back to having some more conversation? Nod your heads if you are. Yeah? Okay, very good. All right. Walter?
I'd like to thank Wayne for this opportunity. I would make a motion that staff be directed to institute the proposal in our packet with a steering committee and with an RFQ for a consultant to assist that steering committee under a Phase 1 contract with a maximum dollar limit of $10,000. And in the RFQ also indicate that upon city approval and direction, the consultant would move into a phase 2 with a not-to-exceed amount of $25,000 to assist with actual design and elements of the steering committee formed ideas.
Second.
Okay, we have Walter's motion and Sue's second.
Doing good till I got to the
All
end.
right, all right. Other discussion of that before voting? Okay, hearing none. We'll start the roll call vote with you.
Gary
Oh,
had a hand up.
did you? Go ahead.
Excuse me, you said city approval, do you mean city council approval?
Yes, I do.
That's your understanding, Sue?
Okay.
That's my understanding.
And do you need any of those aspects that Sue had put in her initial motion pertaining to the, the steering committee's meeting and coming back to council and all of that, or is that understood by staff? Is that, you're all right with
I
that?
think I understand the council's
Okay.
direction.
Everybody understand the motion? Okay. Wayne, we'll start with you.
Aye.
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 Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, city staff, for your persistence in this. I think it's a better outcome for your engagement.